Impact on Your Health is sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, M.D., Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, M.D.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AM Impact on Your Health. AM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AM Impact on Your Health is heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and of course, where we do encourage you to call in to join in today. We're going local today, folks. Didn't know we had, well, we know we have a lot of talent here in Pittsburgh, but was surprised to hear that I had to arrange to meet our guest today circuitously. The PR group contacted me about a great gal who had an exciting topic about yoga. I'll call it Yoga 101, everything you need to know about yoga, but didn't know what to ask. Our guest today is Joanne Spense. She is a Pittsburgher, not originally from Pittsburgh, as we're going to find out, but she has her own story about how she came to respect and utilize yoga in her home life, and maybe she'll titillate you enough to do the same. So our guest today, Joanne Spense, a local girl from Yoga on the Square, out in the Regent Square area of the city of Pittsburgh. Now, during the course of our show today, if you want to call in to ask a question or to make a comment, the number, of course, as always, will be 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262 as we discuss Yoga 101 today. Now, how things shaping up for the rest of the month? Well, enjoyed, did you not, hearing from the Mad Ruski once again. Konstantin Monastersky was our guest on Monday. Of course, all things colon turned out to be exactly what he's expert on, and we're talking about, of all things, colonoscopy, and you got a different perspective maybe. You knew intuitively that it was probably a study you didn't want to have, and even more so now. There are certainly reasons to have it, and when those are present, you need to move toward it, but there certainly are reasons to avoid it, and I hope that we brought those out to you so you can ponder this issue of colonoscopy for your own particular situation based on scientific evidence. Now, on a Friday, and by the way, with respect to Konstantin, he's our guest next Monday. Following this Thanksgiving break, we'll be with Konstantin next Monday talking about something he's very much involved in too. You'll see with the issue of dieting and the problem with diabetes, Konstantin absolutely has strong opinion and worked out an entire program for that kind of individual. If you are diabetic, if you know a diabetic, please tune up and dial us in on Monday when Konstantin, the Mad Ruski, Konstantin Monastersky returns. Now, obviously tomorrow, special day. You're going to be with your family, and I hope it's an enjoyable one for you. Things are gradually heating up around here. Did you see for this weekend? No, not for tomorrow, but for this weekend, we're well into the mid-60s by the time, and sunny. So I guess this qualifies as an Indian summer for sure. Enjoy this, because you know, Pittsburghers, this will come to an abrupt end in the very near future. But enjoy the remainder of the week, and enjoy tomorrow with the family. Now, on Friday, we will not be doing a live show. And I pondered through, and with some help from you, pondered through which one of the repeat shows I thought you'd like to rehear and re-listen to. And it kept coming up, this gentleman, because, well, he was so unique himself, and his objective for the show was such an honorable one. Of course, I'm referring to Daniel Brinkley, the leader, the founder, the creator, and the shepherd of what's called the Twilight Brigade. If you missed that show, you'll want to catch it, even though it's post-Thanksgiving Day. We won't be doing it live, but we will do the repeat show. that we originally aired back on October 17th. Daniel Brinkley talking about his Twilight Brigade and his own personal issues with respect to near-death experiences. I think the word near probably is inappropriate. Full death experience, and by the way, multiple times. Daniel Brinkley will be a repeat guest via a repeat show on Friday, and I promise to get Daniel Brinkley back with the new year. I absolutely promise. This is a fascinating gentleman. I want to hear how his 11-11-11 launch with respect to the Twilight Brigade went. Now, we'll be flipping the page here coming up very soon as we move into the month of December. We're already jam-packed with what we got going on here. Of course, on the 2nd, David Brownstein is going to be our guest. He's going to be talking about therapies, conventional therapies that don't work and alternative ones that do. Shouldn't be that much of a jolt for our listening audience who have more alternative approaches than you could shake a stick at. But let's compare some notes with Dr. David Brownstein on the 2nd of December. And on the 7th, Susan Smith-Jones returns to talk about how to prevent, how to reverse this issue of something called hangovers, which will squarely be in the holiday season by the time Pearl Harbor Day comes around December 7th. Dr. Boom herself will be here. Now, news for us. Well, look, yesterday we launched the MCG testing out at the Monroeville office at Med Health Services. It was an enjoyable day. I had a chance to meet, well, some brand new folks I had never met before. I had a chance to meet some old folks. Old by that, I mean, I knew the voice. As soon as the gentleman opened his mouth, I could place him as a caller to our show many times, and I wanted to thank him for coming out, and he's the official first patient in our Monroeville experience where MCG testing was undertaken yesterday. Those of you who might have an interest in it, I've looked at the dates for December. These are the 2 dates we will be back in the Monroeville office. If either one of these 2 work out for you, then for the month of December, you can also be tested out in the Monroeville office, Med Health Services, just off of Moss Side Boulevard, little right turn at the bottom of the hill, right where the old Med Health Services used to be. There's a light, and as you come down that hill, you'd have to go through that light, and just as you go through it, turn left and go in and up an incline to get to the old office. Now, the old office is abandoned, and in this place, a brand new spanking office is at the right. If you turn right at that red light, and about 20 yards into it, 30 yards into it, you make another right into the parking lot. That is Med Health Services. We'll be back. These are the dates for December. We'll be there on the 6th of December, and we'll be there on the 20th of December. 6 or 20, and looking how the month of December usually shapes up, I'm going to guess 20th is going to be, well, that's going to be a crazy time. But if it still works out for you, if you happen to be shopping in the Monroeville area, you may just want to take the opportunity to stop in and just relax for a bit while we do the MCG testing. Of course, MCG is our multifunctional cardiogram. It's fully launched now that we have obtained the device. For splitting this device between myself and another physician who we have purchased it with, we're having to make certain that certain days of the month be open and available for our listeners. So if it's Monroeville that's closer to you, MCG testing, which is a way to take a look at coronary arteries without any invasiveness and be as accurate as a cardiac cath by a factor of 91%. Now that's pretty doggone accurate when it comes to assessing the status of the coronary arteries. How much plaque do you have in your coronary arteries? And you don't want to have a catheterization, a cardiac catheterization, to know that. And of course, we can now avoid it through the use of the electronic wizardry. The 6th and 20th are dates out there. And by the way, our McMurray date will be the 8th of December. So any of those dates, if they work for you and the location works for you, give us a call here, 724-942-3002, and we'll be able to schedule you for a MCG test on either of those dates. And we'll let that go at that. Finally, I want to mention, because we're the only draw station for HCG lab testing, the tropoplastic theory of cancers has been revealed to you by a radio show we did with Dr. Emil Shandel. This radio show was, I'm going to give you the date, on the 10th of October and the 12th. If you have cancer issues, if you have been treated for cancer, if you feel you are a cancer survivor, which I'd really be pulling for you if you are, make certain that that is a true assessment of your status with this sensitive HCG testing. Essentially a triplet of detecting whether a hormone known as HCG is found in the human body, and it should not be there except in two cases. One, in the case of pregnancy, which you think we can pretty much rule that one out most times, or in the case of any cancer, HCG could very well be the tip-off that cancer is present, and we are the draw station here. Okay, that about rounds it out, folks. Let's do this much. Let's take a short break. In the interim, I go out to the Regent Square section of Pittsburgh. I was just there yesterday. By the way, I was looking for yoga on the square. Couldn't find it. We're going to find out exactly where to find it by the person who runs it. Her name is Joanne Spense. She's our guest today on Yoga 101. We'll be right back with her in a moment.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you are looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Have you been to the doctor lately? Was fatigue top of your complaint list? Even if your doctor asks you what you eat, the recommended 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day is a dream in your busy schedule. What if you learned of a product 5 years in the formulation that delivers 5 servings of fruits and minerals in just 1 ounce? That's right, it's Fruit of the Spirit. The blessings of Fruit of the Spirit are now formulated into a delicious whole fruit puree product rich in antioxidants and minerals. Your health is more than just a test result. It's a balance of physical, spiritual, and emotional factors. You work regularly to strengthen your faith. Let Fruit of the Spirit help cover your nutritional needs in a convenient and cost-effective ounce a day. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. Fruit of the Spirit, 5 servings of fruits and minerals with no added sugars. That's 1-800-442-3793 for your good health. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
Will I close the door? Even lock it?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. Heard here on KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you today on this pre-Thanksgiving show. Midweek, we had our share of rain, did we not? We were pelted with the stuff yesterday. Supposed to clear up today. And to help us clear that up and bring us into literally a new season, we have a guest today. And unusual for us, too, because she's literally in our backyard. Now, she doesn't hail from our backyard, but she's firmly entrenched and implanted in it now, and she is involved very heavily in the procedure and the process of yoga. Now, I have never done a show on yoga, so this is the first for us today. And to listen to this gal's story, her own personal saga, her epiphany on how she discovered how yoga could be helpful to her, may be just how it could be helpful to you too. At least that's what we think may happen today. This is our opportunity to share some time with Joanne Spense. Let's say good morning and welcome aboard, Joanne. Thanks for coming aboard with us today.
Dr. Courtney, welcome and thank you for having me on the show.
Well, it is unusual that when I'm finding out through a group in Florida that I have a guest in my backyard, it's happened before, but it is rare to find out that there's a Pittsburgher here that really has a message and a contribution to bring you. It makes me feel just wonderful. However, we can't take full credit here because, as we find out, you are English-born and Australian-raised and now Pittsburgh implanted. Hey, talk to us a bit about how that all happened.
Well, the bottom line is love.
I thought so.
I met my husband, who is from this part of the country. His parents live a little north of here. And he was backpacking around the world, supposedly footloosing fancy-free, but some say he was looking for a wife. I don't know if that was true or not. But anyway, he found me at an aerobics class in Townsville in Queensland in Australia. And he's never been back to aerobics since. He said he got what he needed. And
well, okay, so a little visit turned out to be a major thing in both of your lives, and happy to hear that he brought you back here and that now you do consider yourself a Pittsburgher. How long have you been in the Pittsburgh area?
Well, I've been here around 23 years.
Oh, absolutely.
And I figured that's long enough to...
Yeah, you qualified, no doubt about it. Now, although I'm sure I'd just be enthralled about hearing about your life and how you were raised and born, evidently things were going along real well until a terrible automobile accident befalls you in 1998. This journey from that point forward leads you through some pretty tough times, but through the enlightenment and realization that the very topic we're discussing today has rescued you from just devastation. Could you spend some time with us to discuss that terrible accident, what you were left with as a result of it, and how you came to feel that yoga was really a way to get out of that rut? Take some time and enlighten us.
Yes, well, it was a really very difficult time in our life, and the injuries that I had, I was conscious when this happened, and there wasn't a lot of blood, so I thought, well, this is all good news, and it was October, and I thought by Christmas I'm going to be on my way and putting this terrible scene behind me, and that was just kind of the beginning of treatments and allowed to be weight-bearing. And I had broken my knee and had a severe whiplash, and that doesn't really sound like much, but that was 2 years, that represented 2 years of chronic pain and about 7 months of intense physical therapy. And I was very, very glad for such great hospitals and emergency room care and all of those things that help us when we're in a crisis. However, it wasn't helping with day-to-day pain management. And so I was at a pain clinic, and we were exploring different options, and my mental health was not terribly stable. I was certainly declining and felt like I was in a depression. And there's that fine line between pain and depression. And it was at that time that I took a weekend workshop, and it was much, much harder than I thought, this yoga workshop. I didn't know anybody that did yoga. I didn't have any preconceived ideas about what yoga might be, except that I thought maybe it was something to do with being peaceful and not moving very fast, and that is characteristic of some styles of yoga. However, the weekend workshop that I went to was not, and it was very, very challenging. And what I found was it really shattered some beliefs I had about myself, that I was flexible and strong, and it turned out that I was neither of those things. And I've been really working hard in physical therapy, and really thought I had made some gains, but not to the point where I could feel successful or comfortable in this weekend yoga workshop. However, I stuck it out, and I was intrigued by the whole process. And lo and behold, 3 days after that, I was pain-free for the very first time in 2 years.
In 3 days?
Mm-hmm.
What the 2 years of work had brought you to in 3 days was able to be resolved. I mean, really, you were pain-free after 3 days? And so I got to question you, what possibly could take place in a 3-day workshop with yoga? By the way, I think of yoga as, you use words like challenging and demanding, and somehow I must have a misconception of yoga, because as I think of it, I don't think of challenging and demanding. I think a lot of mental. And so could you clear up my discrepancy here with challenging and demanding, and how it is that you learned that yoga really was to be challenging and demanding, but there must be a strong spiritual connection between those challenges and those demands.
Well, the thing is that yoga, if you interviewed people on the street or even yoga teachers and talked to 10 different people, you'd get 10 different answers, because there's so many different styles of yoga, like branches on a big tree. And some of them are more reflective and quiet, and some of them are more physically challenging, and it really depends on what branch of the tree that you're on. And the style that I started with was a more physically demanding style of yoga. And it was the last 12 years I spent trying to figure out what exactly happened that led to being pain-free after 3 days. And I don't know that I have all the answers to that, except that my practice and my understanding of yoga and what I practice today and teach today is quite different to what I started out with. And I've noticed a lot of people, particularly here in this country, are very drawn to very vigorous, calorie-burning, strenuous types of yoga practice. And there's some good in all of these things. But I've found myself more drawn over time to a slower, more contemplative style of practice that really allows one to be present and to be really aware of your body, and to be able to honor the body and connect with the mind. And that has been very stabilizing for mental health. And I now work primarily with people that have anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress. And I'm working at Western Psychiatric Institute as a yoga therapist, and I do that part-time. But I also have my own studio in Regent Square called Yoga on the Square.
Well, now, this thing about yoga, so if you were to define what it was and give us some history about yoga and how it originated and how it is that I have a very Middle Eastern like the image that comes to my mind whenever yoga issues come up. Clarify this issue of yoga as to what it really is and how it's evolved and come to us finally. You say there's so many forms. I didn't realize that. Mm-hmm. And some are very high impact, some are very low, physically demanding. So bring us up to speed on yoga as a practice and as an art.
Well, it originates in India, and some people say 3,000 years, some people say 5,000 years, but what's a few thousand years between friends?
That's exactly.
So it originated a long time ago in India, and it wasn't until, and it was primarily a practice that was men, and then in the early 1900s, a man named Swami Vivekananda, I'm going to get that wrong. So I'm just going to say a Swami came in the early 1900s, because I don't want to quote his name falsely. And he brought a practice, and I believe it was in Chicago, and that is mostly recognized as the origins of yoga coming to the United States. And since then, there's been many other Indians that have brought the practice, or Westerners that have traveled over and studied with these yoga masters and brought practices back to the West. And I think the last time I checked the statistics was in the millions. something like 15 million people or more doing yoga in the United States. And it's very interesting. It's become more female populated and more female yoga teachers, yet I think more and more men are rediscovering this practice and realizing that it's not white middle class woman's practice. It is for all bodies, and that we really benefit. And one of the big misconceptions is that you have to be flexible and strong to do a yoga practice, and that's one of the reasons that I made a DVD called Absolute Beginner Yoga. To say you can become flexible or maintain your flexibility, range of motion, and become strong from practicing yoga. And when I say yoga, I'm talking about a comprehensive system that for health and wellness. And often the term yoga is used in the West simply means physical postures, and perhaps a breath or so here or there. But what I'm talking about is connecting breath and movement, which I think is one of the most amazing hallmarks of a yoga practice, is this connection to the breath, this very, very powerful life force in our body, connecting that to movement, slowing everything down. And this has an amazing effect on the central nervous system that actually balances it, and there's studies that show this. But we also know any time somebody practices this linking of the breath and the movement, has this sense of being present in your body in this sense of well-being. So there's been this kind of woo-woo from some perspectives of this mystical element of yoga when it's very grounded in science and very simple in how it connects one to one's body. And that's what I really love about that. And I teach that to people in wheelchairs, because you don't have to be able to stand and do a down dog.
Mm-hmm. Now, you made a link in your own case, and then noticing that you do work at Western Psych, and you have a class that you deal with this issue of depression. You say that it certainly helped you in your issue of pain, which led to depression.
Mm-hmm.
The folks at Western Psych might have pain as the origination, might not, but tell us how this link between the use of yoga and depression is such a strong one, and you've come to depend on being able to use it as a therapeutic approach to the treatment of depression. And evidently, the shrinks, the psychiatrists over there, think enough about it that you're on campus, and
mm-hmm.
to hit the parade of the conventional medical community says a lot. It tells me a lot that they must think a lot about your capabilities of assisting. Talk to us about this issue of depression and how well it works for us.
Well, I think anxiety and depression are, I'm going to quote someone, Bo Forbes, who's written a beautiful book called Yoga for Emotional Balance, and he talks about anxiety and depression being very elegant examples of neuroplasticity, your body's ability to change. We're hardwired for change, and it's habitual. It's things that we practice over and over. That saying, we are our habits, is very true. And our habits can be positive or negative. And what happens with anxiety and depression is that there's a pattern that sets in, and that is a negative pattern that doesn't serve us. And yoga is also based on this capacity for us to change, neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to be able to change, which is very good news for us. And yoga is developing a habit, this mindfulness, that's a very key word, consciously breathing and consciously connecting your breath to your movement, and noticing is a big word in yoga, of noticing what's happening in your body, noticing what's happening in your mind, and that everything we think isn't true. And when we can discern the difference between of this observing thoughts, and that's not our reality, it's not necessarily reality, it's not necessarily something we have to engage with. This is a very, very helpful practice coming from the viewpoint of the mind influencing the body. And then because it's a two-way street, the body also influences the mind. In fact, it's the primary influence of the mind. We can come to a yoga practice willfully, choosing to use the practice and physical postures to address things like posture, because your physical posture is a very key component to your mental status. And so being able to address posture with physical yoga practices through your breathing and through making these subtle changes, some of them are subtle, it depends on what your baseline is, it really influences your state of mind. Does that make sense?
In a way, yes. In a way, I'm still a little confused. Talk to us about...
questions.
Yeah, let's get into it a little more. The fact that as a medical doctor, I'm automatically drawn to whenever I find the conventional medical community has embraced something that I haven't considered too conventional. I don't think even our listeners consider it conventional, which is this practice of yoga. So talk to us about the strong tie that you're either just developing now, or that maybe the conventional medical community has had and has revered what you do for a long time. I just am not aware of it and familiar with it. Talk to us about the tie-in with conventional medical therapies.
Well, I think that as particularly the aspect, as I said, there's all these different styles of yoga, and I'm currently working in something that's more therapeutic in its nature and called yoga therapy. And that's a specific application of yoga as it relates to different ailments. And I'll give you a larger context of that. I belong to an organization called the International Association of Yoga Therapists. And they have a peer-reviewed journal that's now available, articles are now available through the PubMed, where you'll find all other medical journals of
That's for sure, yeah.
repute. And you'll see in there, if you Google, if you in their search engine, in the PubMed search engine, and you look at yoga and any ailment that you can think of, there's usually some sort of yoga study there that's been done, and that it's slowly, this is a new thing for yoga to be included in the PubMed through this journal, and that itself is a landmark of what is happening in the yoga therapy community as it relates to the traditional practice of medicine. And I think that's tremendous news, and that there's people from people like yourself and people, psychiatrists and every discipline in the medical field that you can think of, that either have a yoga practice or have seen something happen that they couldn't quite put their finger on, and now bringing attention to, and as they bring awareness, that often brings research intelligence, resources, funding, to be able to do more funding that's very specific to how one uses yoga therapy as it relates to rotator cuff injuries, as it relates to any sort of bronchial. There's quite a bit of study on asthma in yoga, and so there's these pockets, and yoga and depression is becoming a more studied area. And I find that is very, very exciting. I personally have my own experience to fall back on of knowing how powerful it's been in my own life, but I understand that the establishment, whatever that means, that it's a great thing to be able to have hard science behind something that has maybe hasn't been recognized in the mainstream before. And there's another Pittsburgher in Lawrenceville, the yoga studio, and she started a campaign called Yoga is My Health Insurance. And I thought, what a great concept, because yoga works on the whole system and allows you, it's a proactive thing. It allows you to be healthy. It's also being used specifically for ailments, that you can use it as a way to prevent illness. And that's really good news, because it's so cost-effective and it has physical and mental health benefits.
Well, now, in your own case, and we're going to take a short break, but I absolutely have got to come back to a young lady who's got a 2-year pain problem that in 3 days literally finds herself, you used the word cured or reversed or whatever, your pain was gone in 3 days. So if you could, when we return, we're going to talk about how patients or how listeners can get in contact with you, how maybe they can identify you at that yoga on the square out there in the Regent Square area of town, and words of wisdom, how we can get a hold of your DVD, Absolute Beginner Yoga, and then bring you to describe what happened in that 3 days, and then is that unique or is that reproducible? Do patients or listeners who have a chronic pain problem, do you think this is reproducible at such a rapid rate? I'd like to ask those questions on our return, okay?
Great.
Okay, folks. Can you do it for yourself in 3 days? We're going to find out from Joanne Spense when we return, talking about Yoga 101. More about it in just a moment.
Want to help your family eat healthier? Instead of learning to disguise tofu in wondrous ways, how about some real nutritional power? If your family has the typical American palate for fries, pizza, and burgers, giving your family the blessing of good nutrition is a struggle. Fruit of the Spirit is the answer for your family's nutritional needs. Fruit of the Spirit is an all-natural, whole fruit puree made from fresh fruits native to the Holy Land with alkalizing minerals. Fruit of the Spirit was 5 years in the formulation, the work of a team of top nutritional experts with independent science to confirm its antioxidant power. 1 ounce a day provides the equivalent of 5 servings of fruits and minerals. Fruit of the Spirit is convenient, affordable, and delicious. Even your picky family will sing the praises of Fruit of the Spirit. Give your loved ones the blessing of good nutrition. Call 1-800-442-3793 for a special promotional offer. Fruit of the Spirit, a blessing for your good health. That's 1-800-442-3793. Call them now, 1-800-442-3793.
This is Dennis J. Courtney, MD. Have you become confused about how best to manage your health? It's no wonder. It seems that every time you turn on the television or radio, another expert has yet another suggestion for you to follow that seems to be reasonable enough, but no matter how dutifully you follow the instruction, it just doesn't quite produce the results that you were looking for. If this confusion sounds familiar to you, give us a call at the Center for Complementary Health, where we'll make some sense of the confusion based on a blending of traditional and alternative medicine that we've been perfecting over the last 7 years. We offer metabolic nutrition testing, immune system repair, natural hormone replacement therapy, chelation therapy, cutting-edge allergy correction, and a host of other safe and effective alternative therapies.
Dennis J. Courtney, MD, is located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray. Phone 724-942-3002.
Morning, everybody. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health here on a Wednesday morning version of our show. We're with a Pittsburgher today. Well, not really. I mean, she comes to us so circuitously, but nonetheless plucked from I think she said a aerobic class by one of our gentleman friends, brought her back here, and she's truly, after 22 years, a Pittsburgher through and through. Interesting personal story with respect to how her own problems with the pain issue were resolved by this fascinating subject of yoga. We're going to get into a little more right now and ask her, please tell us, Joanne, how it is that if we wanted to find out more about you and what you do with respect to yoga in the Pittsburgh area, how can you be contacted? This DVD that you put together called Absolute Beginner Yoga, I can subtitle that Yoga 101, and hopefully you won't get angry with me. Talk to us about how we contact you and get more information about this.
Yes, I am in Regent Square, and I have a yoga studio called Yoga on the Square, and my website is yogaonthesquare.net, and there's a buy button right on the home page for the DVD called Absolute Beginner Yoga. And it also has, if you want more details on the DVD, you can go to absolutebeginneryoga.com, and there's lots of testimonials and just some information and background on the very story that we've been talking about.
Okay, and also I see that a book is in the lane here. You're going to put this Yoga Beginners so that you have now on DVD. in Word form? When is that going to be available?
I can't say that that's any time soon. That's still in development, but it will come, and I'm hoping that it will come with a workbook, with a companion DVD.
As that approaches, maybe you'll come back and let us know when that's going to be released, okay?
I would love to. Thank you.
Absolutely. You have the open invite. Okay, so here you are. You have a terrible pain problem, a 2-year pain problem from the lips, coming off the lips of an anesthesiologist who works with chronic pain. I got a picture of you in terms of your issue, and to hear that it was erased in 3 days, you've got my attention. You've got my listeners' attention to describe what happened in those 3 days, and as you look at it retrospectively, is this reproducible for others? This is also happening because you can't be a wonder. In other words, 1 out of 1,000. This must be reproducible a lot more frequently than that. Please take the floor.
Well, thank you. And I think that one of the first things to say is my experience is my experience, and it was the 3 days. That's dramatic any way you look at it. And it was the drama of that propelled me to say what you said, A, is it reproducible? And what does this mean when something wonderful happens to you? Do you just go home and go, thank you, and carry on with your life, or do you decide to share that message? And for me, it was clear that I needed to figure out how to share that message. And I decided that, that meant becoming a yoga teacher and studying and learning. And I don't know in the 12 years since then that I could explain to you all of the ins and outs of what happened, other than in some fairly basic terms. My background, my professional background is in social work, so I come from more of a mental health perspective. But as I studied and as I learned, I realized there were I came across more and more people who had similar stories, and even more people that while their story might not have been yoga changed my life in 3 days, that their life was changed still dramatically, and in some way they were able to manage their pain or whatever ailment that they had. And I'm not saying that yoga is a cure-all for everything in the world. However, the more I practice it and the more I teach, I see very few reasons why it shouldn't be something that one does as often as brushing your teeth and flossing. The very simple aspects of the practice to calm the central nervous system. And it's this stress, this tension that we hold in the mind and the body that is underlying for many problems that we have in life. And so, of course, I'm going to oversimplify what I see happening. But when you have a practice that causes you to pause and causes you to be able to be present and to be grateful in the moment for today, and allows you to engage perhaps a little more slowly with life in a more thoughtful way, this, in fact, lessens stress, and this is a good way to start one's day, to end one's day. And it's this process, this very simple process, because we can get into all of the, there's obviously a lot that comes behind the statement, but there's and things that help people to solve specific problems. That takes some time and some explanation. But there's a man that wrote a book called Yoga as Medicine. He's a physician. His name's Timothy McCall. And he describes yoga as slow medicine. And I think that for sure is a duplicatable, replicatable experience for anyone that is willing to try this practice over and over again. It's this neuroplasticity, our ability to be able to change and to rewire those neurons, and to have a practice that allows us to do that. That's as simple as connecting to your breath and stilling your body. And surely that is a very difficult thing to do in this culture. So I find it some ways to be counterculture and maybe an antidote to 21st century living that really if we allow it to, can just feel very overwhelming at times from all of the stimulus, from all of the screens that we interact with, our constant availability through texting and phone and media and internet. All of those things seem to keep our system on hypervigilance. And this is a counter to all of those things, to be able to, the opposite to the fight and flight response, of being able to evoke this relaxation response that Herb Benson coined it. I think it was in as early as the 60s and 70s. And that, I think, is the key to what a yoga practice provides and what allows people to feel a shift. And I see many, many people that see a shift immediately.
Is it, because I'm trying to search for how to explain that 3-day revelation that you experienced there that changed your life.
Mm-hmm.
Is it that you can, in 3 days, get so in tune with yourself that you can remove your stresses, get into a state of relaxation to such a degree that physical symptoms and disease, or is it the disease or the injury or whatever it was could resolve itself, or that you can turn off your perception of the disease and take away the symptom with, and I don't mean this detrimentally or disrespectfully, like using the mind to trick you into believing you don't really have pain. What did you do in 3 days?
Well, again, as I say, I don't know that I can explain all that, other than it happened and life changed. And I think it's to do with my ability to manage myself. And this is another key point in yoga is regulation, self-regulation. And this is why I teach this in schools. I have a non-profit called Yoga in Schools. And I work in prisons and in hospitals and in the school system, in Pittsburgh Public Schools, in Woodland Hills School District, and many other schools around, is that this, I hear from teachers all of the time of kids not having self-control and no ability to regulate themselves. And this ability to regulate yourself, again, I'm going to bring it back to pausing and slowing oneself down, using the breath. And this is the really good news, is that this practice, there's elements of this practice that are very, very simple. But on the other side of it is it's so simple, because I can hear in your words, how could it possibly be true that one could do something as simple as linking your breath to your movement and slowing things down could have such a dramatic effect? And that's the mindset that so many people are in, because we're used to more complex answers to more complex problems. And yet, I say to people, what have you got to lose? It's a very cost-effective measure, because once you've learned a few of the tools, that's what I like to call them, as tools in your tool belt, then you don't have to, you can pay to go to a class if you want, but you don't have to. You can practice in your home or on the bus or standing in line at the bank. And it's when we say, well, okay, I'm just going to give it a try, and that you're marshaling your inner resources, and your body is fantastic. Your body has this innate ability. It was created. When I learn more about anatomy, the more I learn, the more I'm in awe of all of the systems of the body and how they work together and how amazing the systems are. And when we do things that actually support those systems, and when we give it a chance to find out, we all know what the fight and flight response is. And I can tell you, I went through nearly 40 years of life without understanding that there was a place called relaxed yet alert.
Mm-hmm.
And when we find that place, it actually gives our body a chance to do its job. And that's what's been the most exciting thing about this practice. So what I find myself in the place of showing people how to make that connection and getting in a space that's safe enough, and just providing an opportunity to say, I know it doesn't sound like it's going to work, but why don't we just try it? Or what have you got to lose?
What have you got to lose? How about this is a question? Now, your own story is miraculous enough. 3 days, you wipe out, years worth of pain. But as an instructor and dealing with people who bring to you a myriad of problems, what's your top 10 list look like? Like a patient came to you with an issue and a problem, and they resolved that issue or problem in a short period of time. What are some of the best turnarounds you've seen? What kind of dysfunction was going on that you found that maybe even amazed you whenever you saw it done? What are some of the top 10 on your top 10 list?
Well, I often, it's interesting, I don't have a lot on my website that would link me to working with people with depression and anxiety and post-traumatic stress, but I often attract people that have that symptomology, and they might come in because they want to learn to relax more, or because their hip is hurting them, or some other more physical ailment, and it might be revealed during our time that, in fact, they have an anxiety disorder or they've some trauma in their past, and that they're on this, their body, they've been tense for so long, they're not even aware that they're not able to relax. And so when they drop into a place where they're feeling safe enough to truly relax, and that might happen in one session, that might happen over the course of several sessions, they're, I don't know if this is the right word, but they're gobsmacked. They can't believe that they are in this place, and it often brings tears, it often is a surprise, but I think that's one of the special moments where someone that has had, and when that happens, that even for a few minutes they might be pain-free from whatever it was that was ailing them, free from mental pain, free from physical pain. It happens when they're in that deep place of relaxation. And if I hadn't felt it from my own experience and seen it over and over again with lots of different ailments that are way beyond my scope of, I stick to practicing what I know, and when people tell me things that so you need to, do this in conjunction with being your physician or your psychiatrist, or I think that that's a really important piece that I'm working alongside other practitioners. But I also see people that are at the end of their rope, that they've done the rounds and they feel like they've talked to a lot of physicians and they've tried a lot of different medications for whatever it is that's ailing them. And so that when people come through the door, my first job is to not do any harm and to see if there's something that we can do that would help them connect to their body. Because often we're walking around as if we are a brain on a stick, and we have this whole body that we're connected to. And that realization is a very important one to being able to completely relax the body.
Now, the word relax again. So you feel that as soon as one of the students that you're now taking under your wing and under your tutelage, the ability to get to that point where they can relax maybe as well as you were able to relax, it's all wrapped up in this ability to shun stress and to relax. And whatever the medical issue may be, whatever the psychological issue is, it has a chance to be resolved as your ability to relax is improved. Do I have that, at least the nutshell, the little capsulized version of this go? Or am I way off base?
No, I think you are. And obviously there's, as I said, there's a, I think that's a really good beginning point that we begin with people. Now, if you just tell somebody to relax that's got a broken knee or a backed up hip,
that wouldn't work, would it? No.
So there's other things that you can see with your eyes and from how people move that would be specific prescriptions of improving people's movement and their ability to move purely, and relationship of how your arms move in relationship to your body, your legs in relationship to your torso, all that sort of stuff. However, if you're holding the tension and you don't have any or much ability to calm your system down, to find the state of relaxation, it's going to be hard to even listen or do any of this stuff. I've seen plenty of people practice yoga not breathing, tense, and not getting any of the benefits. Or you could apply this to any exercise, running, people not paying attention to what they're doing. And in my opinion, somebody practicing something that looks like a yoga posture, that's tense and rigid and not breathing and not present, then that really isn't yoga. So the relaxation component is a very, very important component and a great starting point for anyone, because everybody can relate to fight or flight response. Opposite of that is the relaxation response. How do we get there? And why is that? How is that different to sleep? Because we don't relax in our sleep. There's evidence of things like TMJ, waking up with a sore neck, stiffness in the body. Obviously something is going on while we are sleeping that is not deeply relaxing. Right. Even though sleep is a very critical part of one's mental and physical well-being.
Now, we're just coming up to the end of this, and I must say that you put yourself in the arena where a lot's going on. I mean, you're at the Western Psych, you're at our prisons, you're in our schools, you are coming across issue after issue after issue, and you're not there because you're not successful. I got a feeling you're there because you are. Once again, I guess to get a hold of you, they go to your website. Is it yogaonthesquare.net? Did I get that right?
That's right.
All right. Bongos in the background say it's our time out of here, folks. Dial her up. Give her a call. Go out and see her on the square. I promise to bring her back, too, in the near future. You promise to come back, right?
I will. Thank you.
Okay. There you have it, folks. Don't forget, have a wonderful day tomorrow with your Thanksgiving. On Friday, the repeat show with Daniel Brinkley talking about his Twilight Brigade. I'll be back with you with the Mad Rooski on Monday talking about diabetes. Until then, Dr. Dennis Courtney with Joanne Spense saying so long for AM Impact on your health.
AM Impact on Your Health is sponsored by Dennis J. Courtney, MD, Director of the Courtney Medical Group, located at 3075 Washington Road in McMurray, Pennsylvania. For more information or to make an appointment, call 724-942-3002. That's 724-942-3002 for Dennis J. Courtney, MD.
Did you know that disease begins in the colon? An unclean colon is the cause of much disease and disorder in the body. If we have a